once told me there is a city more than just buildings, more than just roads, more than a destination on a map. We look up at the stars dreaming, but what if what burns brightest is not what is up in the clouds, but what surrounds us? It is not easy to explain. It's true. The most beautiful things in the world can sometimes be the things that we see, things we hear, things we touch. But what keeps you alive must be felt with the heart. This is where I began my journey. Jakarta. My Jakarta. Vibrant Jakarta.
I'd like to extend my warmest welcome to you, to the beautiful city we call home, the vibrant Jakarta.
Pernah habis dunia sampai ke ujung batasnya, takkan berhenti hingga hatimu membeku. Kembali berputar arah, pulang padaku.
Saat gagasan pendirian Sarinah dicetuskan pada tahun 1962, Bung Karno ingin banyak membuat mercusuar kebangkitan bangsa Indonesia. Sarinah adalah bentuk perwujudan dari kebangkitan ekonomi kerakyatan menuju modernisasi dan internasionalisme. Dari masa ke masa, Sarinah menjadi saksi dari perkembangan Indonesia. Sarinah melihat bagaimana masyarakat bertumbuh dan beradaptasi melalui segala tantangan yang hadir. Sarinah terus menjadi sentra aktivitas bagi masyarakat untuk memasarkan inovasi dan produk dalam negeri di jantung ibu kota. Transformasi Sarinah adalah sebuah momen yang dinanti-nantikan masyarakat Indonesia. Sebuah pusat perbelanjaan yang didesain untuk memberikan ruang bagi produk dalam negeri yang telah dikurasi. Pemugaran gedungnya tetap menjaga kelestarian aspek cagar budayanya Namun, interior, fasilitas, dan pengalaman berbelanja akan disesuaikan dengan perilaku konsumen masa kini dan masa depan. Sarinah diharapkan menjadi destinasi wajib kunjung bagi wisatawan dalam dan luar negeri. Ruang rumah Sarinah terbagi menjadi 8 buah segmen lantai. Masing-masing ruang tersebut kami beri nama antara lain Pasar Nusantara, Pusaka, Untayan, Kreasi, Hayat, House of Sarinah, Cakrawala, dan Tanah Nusa. Melalui konsep community mall, Sarinah memberikan ruang publik yang memiliki elemen historical, urban linkages, urban forest, serta urban living. Kami ingin mengajak Anda untuk menjadi bagian dari semangat baru Sarinah. Semangat yang diwariskan oleh para pendiri bangsa untuk bisa menjadikan Indonesia menjadi salah satu sentral ekonomi dunia. Bersama, mari kita tunjukkan kekayaan karya Nusantara kepada dunia. Sarinah, panggung karya Indonesia.
Menurut saya, brand lokal merupakan tanggung jawab semua pihak.
Saat ini banyak banget brand lokal yang keren-keren. Komunitas kreatif dan tempat-tempat kreatif juga terus berkembang.
Belakangan ini pergerakan dari brand lokal menunjukkan atau menghadirkan tren yang sangat positif pada kecintaan dan kebanggaan terhadap penggunaan produk-produk dalam negeri.
Nama saya David Irianto, salah satu pengurus dari JCCF. Selama beberapa tahun kebelakang, dalam peran saya sebagai kurator untuk berbagai acara konferensi kreatif di Indonesia, saya melihat ledakan yang luar biasa dari antusiasme anak muda dalam membuat brand-brand lokal.
Saya Tati Apriliana, pegiat dan pengembang jenama lokal. Sarinah adalah nama pengasuh Bapak bangsa kita, Bung Karno.
Sejak awal didirikannya di tahun 62 oleh Bung Karno, Sarinah telah dijadikan sebagai sarana dan wadah bagi produk lokal Indonesia.
Dan dia akan menjadi semacam game changer bagi semua pelaku-pelaku kreatif lokal, para pelaku kultural lokal, para pelaku brand-brand lokal keren yang akan menjadi pendorong utama dari ekonomi retail Nusantara.
Halo, saya Vicky Satari, Dewan Pengawas dari Jakarta Creative City Forum.
Om Swastiastu, Tiang Komang Winawahyudi dari Bali. Saya seorang creative trainer dan founder dari Tualen & Co. bersama ICCN dan JCCF.
Halo, saya Laura Bangun Prinsu. Saya juga pelaku ekonomi kreatif di subsektor penerbitan. Saya menyambut baik hadirnya wajah baru Sarinah yang mengedepankan dan membantu memajukan lokal-lokal brand di Indonesia.
Dan semoga juga Sarinah bisa menjadi etalase bagi wajah dan representasi produk lokal di mata dunia.
Saya Aldi, Deputi Bidang Regulasi dan Kebijakan Jakarta Creative City Forum atau JCCF. Harapan saya, Sarinah bisa menjadi showcase untuk lokal brand Indonesia, para lokal heroes Indonesia untuk menunjukkan kualitas dan kapabilitas mereka.
Semoga kerjasama Sarinah dengan Jakarta Creative City Forum atau JCCF bisa menjadi inisiasi awal dari terciptanya platform yang berkelanjutan.
Saya Dipa Sitepu sebagai pengurus pemasaran dan komunikasi publik di JCCF. Semoga melalui Sarinah dan Jakarta Creative City Forum lebih banyak lagi lokal brand Indonesia mendapat kepercayaan sebagai brand yang berkualitas dan itu buatan Indonesia.
Saya Raditya Susilo, founding partner dari PT Arab Design International dan juga wakil direktur inkubator bisnis dari Jakarta Creative City Forum. Saya sangat bersemangat dengan misi Sarinah untuk menjadi etalase prominent bagi local brand kebanggaan kita semua.
Halo, nama saya Leonardo Sabrata. Saya sekarang sedang menjabat menjadi Direktur Utama Smesco Indonesia dan juga Komisaris di Sarinah. Tentunya saya punya harapan yang besar ya terhadap peran Sarinah dan juga untuk memajukan local brands di Indonesia.
Saya menyambut baik kerjasama antara JCCF dengan Sarinah dalam brand local movement. Mudah-mudahan hal ini bisa menggairahkan industri kreatif sekaligus membuat kehidupan kita lebih berbudaya dan berkarakter Indonesia.
Saya berharap bisa JCCF dan Sarinah dapat berkolaborasi sangat erat ke depannya. Panjang umur kolaborasi, bagi dua negeri kami berkolaborasi.
Ke Sarinah bareng keluarga.
Cakep.
Banyak produk lokal yang juara. Yuk langsung aja datang belanja, dukung UMKM biar makin merajat.
good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Sarina Jakarta Content Week 2021, sponsored by BRIMO and DKI, Jakarta Tourism and Creative Economy Agency, and in cooperation with many institutions and partners. This event is organized by the 17,000 Islands of Imagination Foundation and Frankfurter Buchmesse. My name is Claudia Kaiser, and I'm very happy to join you as your host today in our session about selling literature in translation in different markets, with the publishers Barbara Weidle from Germany and Salman Faridi from Indonesia. This session is part of LitTrade, a platform for publishers and players in the creative industries of Asia Pacific and the West to discuss ideas and start cooperations. Once again, welcome. Hello, Barbara. You are in Germany and it's still morning time, so good morning.
Good morning, Claudia. Hello, Salman. Yes, I'm in
So
Berlin.
Barbara is a publisher, an art historian, a moderator, and she's also a shared reading facilitator and many more. She was the co-founder of the House of Literature in Bonn and its first director. She's also the founding curator of the forum, The Independent Publishers, at one of the other book fairs in Germany, the Leipzig Book Fair. And she has curated exhibitions and frequently writes for German newspapers and catalogs. The publishing house, which she runs together with her husband, is called Weidle Publishing and has been awarded the German Publishing Award twice. Great to have you with us, Barbara. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
And Salman, good afternoon to you. You are in Indonesia. And you are the CEO and the publisher of Bentang Pustaka in Indonesia, a job which you started in 2009. Before that, Salman worked as an editor for comic books, editor for teens and young adult fiction department at Mizan. And as you probably know, Bentang belongs to the Mizan group of publishers. Salman has initiated numerous activities and creative ideas in publishing, including the Belia Writing Marathon and many, many more. He also publishes a lot of translations every year, especially from English and from Asian languages. So thanks again for being here with us, Salman.
Thank you for having me, Claudia. Nice to meet you, Barbara.
Great. All right. So we're really looking forward to have some insights from you on this important topic of selling literature and translation. You both translate literature, you both publish translated literature. And we know that it's often not easy, especially when we're not talking about bestsellers, which we don't really have to discuss because they sell without us having to do so much about them. But the literature from lesser well-known languages and countries are a challenge. So perhaps you want to tell us a little bit about your publishing houses and what challenges you see in publishing translations and in selling and marketing those. Barbara, do you want to start? Ladies first.
Thank you. We've been running our publishing house for 26 years now. We started with German Jewish immigration literature, autobiographical books, and German literature. But we changed because there are so many big publishing houses in Germany who can take care for the German authors. So we decided we go into international languages, since we are very much interested in international literature anyway. So so during the last, I think, 10-15 years, we specialized in translations. We started, in fact, doing this with Frankfurt Book Fair because we always take part in the guest of honor country programs, and it turned out that it was and is, for us as a small publishing house, a very, very interesting international contact, a frame where we can start our work and it's so far we've been doing this for more than 10 years now. It's a great inspiration every time, I think. It comes with meeting people from the foreign countries. It comes with traveling and a lot of research, and of course it's a lot of fun to do all this, to get this together and find somebody in whose work you are interested and you want to get it to the German market.
Right, Salman, you want to tell us a little bit about yours?
Thank you very much. So Bentang Pustaka was actually an independent publisher before it was acquired by Mizan. So we started as part of Mizan Group in 2004. And then at that time, we initially focused on literature. So many books about literature, Indonesian literature at that time. Even I think, I still remember until now, initially Bentang Pustaka was Bentang Budaya, was famously known to, let's say, bravely publish some things that opposed to the government at the time. We have some works from Seno Gumira Adimaja, for instance. It's about the chronicles in East. So afterward, we're trying to get into more general market. We have, besides literatures, also books on self-help for teenagers, fiction, and then we are trying nowadays to get into the let's say children's publication. It's very difficult. It's very new for us. It is not an easy task, but I always love the starting point where we're trying to find a new home for authors trying to make their debuts into literature worlds, especially in Indonesian literature. So until now, we're still in our path to bring new voices of authors from, let's say, young adults. And that's why we have, as I mentioned, Belia Writing Marathon. Belia Writing Marathon is part of our effort to, let's say, it's a room in a digital platform where teenagers from 13 or 14 or 15 years old, they started their first debut in digital platform. So I think it's very interesting to see this development nowadays. So that's how we developed until recently, Claudia.
Yeah, when we talk about literature in translation, so you're also translating, you're publishing translated works, and when we talk about the translations from lesser well-known languages in Indonesia and then later in Germany, what are your challenges in selling them? Because often they don't sell well. There's a lot of good intention, and maybe you will also also receive some translation funding, but the selling is often problematic. So how do you go about it? What are the challenges? How do you get those books into the bookshops or selling platforms?
Yeah, I think as far as I can remember, it is very difficult. Let's say, for instance, we have Umberto Eco. Title is Foucault Pendulum. It is very difficult. Reading Foucault is difficult. Reading Foucault Pendulum, Eco is also very difficult. And at the time, I think we are very lucky, consider us lucky if we can sell it, let's say 2,000 copies, and then in the year, it sell very well in the year. So, but still it is very difficult. Probably, I think one way or another that we could try to is to pick some more popular themes. Let's say when we talk about eco, we could sell quite well in another title, The Name of the Rose, because it has a movie tie-in, for instance. So it could be, let's say, a marketing strategy to, if you have this kind of literature, you can also find are there any tie-in to the title. It could like ease the way to introduce the title to the market in Indonesia. And then we have also like, I think very recently we could also use social media. Social media is almost ubiquitous, is everywhere, and I think it is very much allows if we could like maximize the potency of social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, for instance.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Barbara. How do you see how do you see that situation? What do you do about it?
Well, in Germany, we have a lot of translations. As you know, many translations are done. German readers are very curious about different countries. Germans travel a lot. And it's really interesting because my experiences are very different. It's hard to judge in advance which country will be successful or which country will be the country where people are interested in the literature of this country. For example, Iceland was a complete success. People were so crazy about Iceland. Everybody wanted to travel there. And in fact, it had a deep effect on the travel situation after the book fair. Georgia is another country which was very successful in Germany. People are very much interested in post-Soviet countries in Germany. So Georgia is one of them, but also it's a very attractive place with a Mediterranean atmosphere, and also it has a great literature. But it has to come together, and people travel to Georgia now when they are able to, and hike there and discover the country. With other countries, it's more difficult. And I must say a key person or key persons are always the book dealers. We try to very much get in touch with our book dealers and visit them. And also we have sales representatives who talk about our translations. But as I said, it's not easy to judge. And for example, with Indonesia, we have a great novel, Pulang, by Leila Chudori. And though people travel to Indonesia from Germany and travel to Bali and think about the beaches and so on, the knowledge about Indonesia and the history of Indonesia is not very people don't know much about it in Germany. And so we thought with our great novel by Leila, which describes a certain period in Indonesia, we found it great and interesting, and it's well written, but it was not so easy to get it to the people. We had a great reading tour. This is what we very often do with our authors. And it was quite successful. The book is beautiful. We tried a lot, but in the end, the book dealers, for example, they didn't go with us. The book dealers, Indonesia was not, for them it was not, it has to be done more, I think, for a country like Indonesia to get people really into it. And maybe because it's such a huge country and it's so far away, people don't know much about literature in Indonesia. So maybe it would be a very good opportunity or step to first publish maybe 10 books, 10 very important books of Indonesian literature, and bring them to Germany, and then build up something. sometimes it takes more time than a year or two but it's so important.
And is this a unique experience that you go with a guest of honor country, or you buy the rights, or you publish translated literature that doesn't go so well, or is this, or do they usually sell better?
I wouldn't say it in general. Maybe Eastern Asia is a special problem in Germany. Not a problem, but it has to be. Yes. There has to be done more things to really get it to the readers, because once they have started, once they are into it, you get them. But I think with other languages, for us, it was easier, like with Arabic or of course, I mean, we have two writers from Syria, and people were very much interested in their destiny and what they describe and the political situation, but it's much closer to Germany. And of course, Germany was a lot affected by the problems in Syria, and is, and we have with Norwegian, it's not a problem because it's so close, and people are always fascinated by Scandinavia because it's similar but also very different. This is what yeah, I mean, the other languages are from Europe, which is always easier because people travel to Portugal or Spain or yeah, even Albania. I mean, we start now with a writer from Albania. We'll see, but I'm very optimistic, I think. So I think it's a question of distance, but also of well, there are so many translations published in Germany that it's not so easy to get the focus on one.
Okay, yeah, that's very true and very yeah, easy to understand. Salman, how do you relate to that?
Yeah, I think we have similar situation here. Challenge is always how to introduce these diverse works into Indonesian audience. I have like some titles coming from southern part of America, 2 or 3 titles in the last 2 years, and we're doing very hard to introduce, because if you look at the landscape of Indonesia audience, many are coming from, let's say, English literature, so not that many coming from Latin America, for instance. But then not so many audience into it, because probably I think I don't know if it is happened also in any other part of the world. More popular themes are in favor other than literatures. So that's why we have some challenges in introducing those kind of books. We have also some titles coming from Korea, but at the time we are not that lucky, because it hasn't been like grown into maturity as it is now. If you look at the, let's say, the pop world right now, you have Korean pop things, a song. You have Korean drama, and also you have Korean literatures. Like 4 or 5 years, we are trying to introduce this kind of books too in Indonesia, and nothing happened. But nowadays, we are seeing some progress. Actually, Claudia, we have seen titles coming from Korean literatures, and they are selling very well in some major publishings in Indonesia. I think it's a good start. And only recently we are trying to translate titles from China. It's still ongoing project. we are calling this project because we have some government backup for this kind of translation. I think also we've seen this kind of project a lot in terms of literature, some government backup. During the FBF, I think when Indonesia is guest of honor, so many titles are translated into Indonesia, and it is also, or the other way around, it is made possible by the governments.
Yeah, so that's for finding translations or getting the translations done in the first place, right? Yeah. Yeah. So, and Barbara, you said that the guest of honor countries are usually a very good source of foreign literature for translation. And of course, there's also mostly a translation grant that comes with it. Is this your main focus when it comes to translations, or where do you get the information about interesting titles?
No, it's not only through the guest of honor countries, of course. I think the translators themselves are very important. So we have a good network of translators from foreign languages. Like with our Syrian writers, we worked with Larissa Bender, who is a very well-known translator from the Arabic, and we have a lot of other translators from other languages who, of course, know the market very well and watch it. And so our Norwegian writer was recommended by a translator to us. I mean, if we always, I mean, we depend on the judgment of translators and experts when we are not able to read the language. But of course, what really helps, for example, when the manuscripts are translated into the English or the French, then we can judge the thing ourselves. So this is also a helpful tool, but they come to us through all kinds of different channels. It's a network, it's a recommendation, it's sometimes our own research, agents also, colleagues. Every book has its own path, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Is that the same for you, Salma? Or do you find the titles that you might be interested in?
Luckily, I think we have some networks of agencies around the world. Some of them actually fellow from FBF. Thanks to you, Claudia. So we have like some exchange of information between our fellows. There is the one of the means I'm trying to, let's say, to source it for the benefit of the literatures, for instance. There are fellows from Colombia, for instance, or Norway, etc. So apart from the fellows agencies, I think, and then as well as the Publishers Weekly, I think it is also very important. You have some information coming from new authors, or let's say popular authors that will soon release their works, for instance. We also have some information coming from events in many parts of the world. So we are trying to collect as much as information as we can. But I think the recommendation from friends is always reliable, actually.
Yeah, so the network aspect is extremely important, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Good. Do you have, I mean, Barbara was talking about the guest of honor at Frankfurt Book Fair, and that it's always a good source of information, and also because usually the translation funding is also available at that time, and the support by the original publishers and the government. Is there anything similar in Indonesia?
I think so. I mean, Frankfurt Book Fair is like a mecca, for any kind of activities concerning books publication. So coming to Frankfurt is a privilege to see some of your fellows, some of your agencies, some of your most important people that you can only interact with by emails, for instance. So still, I think book fairs, including Frankfurt, is very important. And I think nowadays, because of pandemic, the growing popularity of like festivals is also has to be taken into consideration, I think, because where people could not come to see each other, we have some, even like Zoom is, I think, very popular nowadays. We could communicate, interact, etc. And also e-festival, e-book fair is also has been taken into consideration in online platform.
Yeah, I see. Okay, I wanted to go back to Barbara, who said that connecting with booksellers is very important. In Germany, we have seen that we have a lot of independent booksellers, and they have also benefited or survived quite well during the pandemic, at least most of them or many of them. What about the big chain stores? And of course, that question will also be going to Salman, because in Indonesia we have those big bookshops by Gramedia, which dominate the market, and in Germany we also have big book chains. How do you get translations into those? I mean, especially translations which are not per se not selling so well, or from the outset present a challenge to selling. Barbara.
Yeah, that's in fact not so easy. I must say we are independent publishers, and we rely on the independent book dealers. And as you said, there are many in Germany, and they are a big part of the whole thing. Their passion and their state of being informed, and their engagement into literature. To get an entrance into the big chains is indeed not easy for us. Sometimes it works, like for example with Carl Nixon, a New Zealand writer. We published his novel Walking Horse Road, and we didn't think about it as a thriller, but in fact it was seen and read as a thriller, and this opened the door to the chains, for example. It's also a question of personal contact. Sometimes it works, but as we know, the book dealers who work for the chains, they are very limited in their possibilities. I mean, they don't have a great range of possibilities to put books into on the shelf or on the table that they like and think are interesting, but they are not part of mainstream. So I would say as we have some contacts, and sometimes at the book fair, for example, somebody from a chain came to us, a woman who works at a chain, and she asked us about a certain title, and so we brought it there, and so now it's on the table there. But it's in general it's rather difficult to be part of that.
Salman, how is that for you?
Well, Mizan from the very beginning has its own distribution channel. So we try to, let's say, different strategies during pandemic, because as you know, all bookstores are closed because of lockdown or limitation. Uh, Only very critical stores or shops can be open during the pandemic, but mainly closed. Well, bookstores, I think, is not very critical, so they have to shut them down. And then last year, I think, we are trying very hard to adapt to a very new market. In Indonesia, we have some growing popularities of marketplaces. We have like Tokopedia, and then Shopee, Bukalapak, etc. So we try to shift ourselves into this kind of channels. It was very challenging because it is as if we have to try something new other than the stores we already knew for like 20 or 3 years ago. But then I think it is also very very profitable. I mean, compared to, let's say, before 2019, I think most of the sales coming from bricks and mortars, from retails, especially you said about Gramedia. It is the biggest distribution channel in Indonesia. But then when the pandemic hit, it slowly shifts into marketplaces. And I think it is also true for Gramedia publishing houses. They also shift their channels into these marketplaces. And then recently, the composition of the sales channels coming from marketplaces is actually very significant. I think it's slightly more than offline retails nowadays. It's very important now to have this kind of channels in just between like less than 2 years. So I imagine if we did not adapt very fast into this kind of new models, new business model, new channels, I think, I don't know, because the sales is actually dropped significantly.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that
Right.
would have been my last question anyway. So last one goes to you then, Barbara. Did you see that also in Germany? I mean, many bookshops were closed during the pandemic in many states of the country.
It was not like that. I mean, it was, I would be more optimistic. We could see that a lot of the independent bookshops did very well, but they had to be inventive. They had to work a lot. They had to be very creative. But the shops which are in the middle of the city, they had difficulties because people didn't go to the middle of the city anymore. They had to stay home. But all the other shops, or the other bookshops in the neighborhoods, they did very well. And I think the book dealers, they started to tell people that they are as fast as Amazon, and they are. I mean, they can deliver the books after one day and so on. But I think they did well, but they had to put much more into it than in a normal situation. But I think, as far as I know, people bought more books and read more.
Well, okay, that's a great last word. People read more during the pandemic. I don't think that's
exactly. Right.
yeah. Hopefully, that's also the case in Indonesia, and hopefully that stays as the book market comes back to a better to better sales and better turnover.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, coming back to translations, what we heard from our guests today is that networks play a very important role, a good relationship with booksellers, with translators, with agents, all the marketers, other publishers, of course, all the market players that are part of the network and keep the network going. Unfortunately, that obviously has also happened during the times of the pandemic. Well, I really hope that we will see more translations from German into the Indonesian language and from many other languages into German.
Yeah.
And as part of that, we created a digital and online forum, exchange forum for translators in Southeast Asia who translate into the German language. And we'll be also introducing titles to the translators. And one of the sessions will also be translators introducing titles from their language, German translators introducing titles from the languages they translate from to German publishers. So we also want to do our part to ensure that the market for translations stays vibrant. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and knowledge and ideas today with us.
Thank you, Claudia.
Thank you, Claudia.
Thank you, Barbara.
Salman.
Yeah, thank you, audience, wherever you are. Thank you for listening to us today. Okay, see you soon. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye from Berlin.
Menurut saya, brand lokal merupakan tanggung jawab semua pihak.
Saat ini banyak banget brand lokal yang keren-keren. Komunitas kreatif dan tempat-tempat kreatif juga terus berkembang.
Belakangan ini pergerakan dari brand lokal menunjukkan atau menghadirkan tren yang sangat positif pada kecintaan dan kebanggaan terhadap penggunaan produk-produk dalam negeri.
Nama saya David Irianto, salah satu pengurus dari JCCF. Selama beberapa tahun kebelakang, dalam peran saya sebagai kurator untuk berbagai acara konferensi kreatif di Indonesia, saya melihat ledakan yang luar biasa dari antusiasme anak muda dalam membuat brand-brand lokal.
Saya Tati Apriliana, pegiat dan pengembang jenama lokal. Sarina adalah nama pengasuh Bapak bangsa kita, Bung Karno.
Sejak awal didirikannya di tahun 62 oleh Bung Karno, Sarinah telah dijadikan sebagai sarana dan wadah bagi produk lokal Indonesia.
Dan dia akan menjadi semacam game changer bagi semua pelaku-pelaku kreatif lokal, para pelaku kultural lokal, para pelaku brand-brand lokal keren yang akan menjadi pendorong utama dari ekonomi retail Nusantara.
Halo, saya Vicky Satari, Dewan Pengawas dari Jakarta Creative City Forum.
Om Swastiastu, Tiang Komang Winawahyudi dari Bali. Saya seorang creative planner dan founder dari Tualen & Co. bersama ICCN dan JCCF.
Halo, saya Laura Bangun Prinsu. Saya juga pelaku ekonomi kreatif di subsektor penerbitan. Saya menyambut baik hadirnya wajah baru Sarinah yang mengedepankan membantu memajukan lokal-lokal brand di Indonesia.
Dan semoga juga Sarinah bisa menjadi etalase bagi wajah dan representasi produk lokal di mata dunia.
Saya Aldi, Deputi Bidang Regulasi dan Kebijakan Jakarta Creative City Forum atau JCCF. Harapan saya, Sarinah bisa menjadi showcase untuk lokal brand Indonesia para lokal heroes Indonesia untuk menunjukkan kualitas dan kapabilitas mereka.
Semoga kerjasama Sarinah dengan Jakarta Creative City Forum atau JCCF bisa menjadi inisiasi awal dari terciptanya platform yang berkelanjutan.
Saya Dipa Sitepu sebagai pengurus pemasaran dan komunikasi publik di JCCF. Semoga melalui Sarinah dan Jakarta Creative City Forum lebih banyak lagi lokal brand Indonesia mendapat kepercayaan sebagai brand yang berkualitas dan itu buatan Indonesia.
Saya Raditya Susilo, founding partner dari PT Arab Design International dan juga wakil direktur inkubator bisnis dari Jakarta Creative City Forum. Saya sangat bersemangat dengan misi Sarinah untuk menjadi etalase prominent bagi local brand kebanggaan kita semua.
Halo, nama saya Leonardo Sabrata. Saya sekarang sedang menjabat menjadi Direktur Utama Smesco Indonesia dan juga Komisaris di Sarinah. Tentunya saya punya harapan yang besar ya terhadap peran Sarinah dan juga untuk memajukan local brands di Indonesia.
Saya menyambut baik kerjasama antara JCCF dengan Sarinah dalam brand local movement. Mudah-mudahan hal ini bisa menggairahkan industri kreatif sekaligus membuat kehidupan kita lebih berbudaya dan berkarakter Indonesia.
Saya berharap bisa JCCF dan Sarinah dapat berkolaborasi sangat erat ke depannya. Panjang umur kolaborasi, bagi dua negeri kami berkolaborasi.
Ke Sarinah bareng keluarga.
Cakep.
Banyak produk lokal yang juara. Yuk langsung aja datang belanja, dukung UMKM biar makin merajat.
Saat gagasan pendirian Sarinah dicetuskan pada tahun 1962, Bung Karno ingin banyak membuat mercusuar kebangkitan bangsa Indonesia. Sarinah adalah bentuk perwujudan dari kebangkitan ekonomi kerakyatan menuju modernisasi dan internasionalisme. Dari masa ke masa, Sarinah menjadi saksi dari perkembangan Indonesia. Sarinah melihat bagaimana masyarakat bertumbuh dan beradaptasi melalui segala tantangan yang hadir. Sarinah terus menjadi sentra aktivitas bagi masyarakat untuk memasarkan inovasi dan produk dalam negeri di jantung ibu kota. Transformasi Sarinah adalah sebuah momen yang dinanti-nantikan masyarakat Indonesia. Sebuah pusat perbelanjaan yang didesain untuk memberikan ruang bagi produk dalam negeri yang telah dikurasi. Pemugaran gedungnya tetap menjaga kelestarian aspek cagar budayanya, namun interior, fasilitas, dan pengalaman berbelanja akan disesuaikan dengan perilaku konsumen masa kini dan masa depan. Sarinah diharapkan menjadi destinasi wajib kunjung bagi wisatawan dalam dan luar negeri. Ruang rumah Sarinah terbagi menjadi 8 buah segmen lantai. Masing-masing ruang tersebut kami beri nama antara lain Pasar Nusantara, Pusaka, Untayan, Kreasi, Hayat, House of Sarinah, Cakrawala, dan Tanah Nusa. Melalui konsep community mall, Sarinah memberikan ruang publik yang memiliki elemen historical, urban linkages, urban forest, serta urban living. Kami ingin mengajak Anda untuk menjadi bagian dari semangat baru Sarinah. Semangat yang diwariskan oleh para pendiri bangsa untuk bisa menjadikan Indonesia menjadi salah satu sentral ekonomi dunia. Bersama, mari kita tunjukkan kekayaan karya Nusantara kepada dunia. Sarinah, panggung karya Indonesia.
Tak pernah habis dunia sampai ke ujung batasnya, takkan berhenti hingga hatimu membeku. Kembali berputar arah, pulang padaku. Kembalilah.
once told me there is a city more than just buildings, more than just roads, more than a destination on a map. We look up at the stars dreaming, but what if what burns brightest is not what is up in the clouds, but what surrounds us? It is not easy to explain. It's true. The most beautiful things in the world can sometimes be the things that we see, things we hear, things we touch. But what keeps you alive must be felt with the heart. This is where I began my journey. Jakarta. My Jakarta. Vibrant Jakarta.
I'd like to extend my warmest welcome to you, to the beautiful city we call home, the vibrant Jakarta.